Welcome to the unit on fractions. This is a Year 3 and 4 unit, Day 1. The overall aim of this unit is to understand what fractions are and to understand equivalent fractions, to be able to compare fractions, to add fractions, to subtract fractions, and also to find fractions of amounts. Our objectives for this whole unit are: I can identify fractions and their equivalent fractions. I can also add and subtract fractions. I can even find fractions of amounts. Firstly, some vocabulary. Here I have a fraction, 3/4. The numerator is a number above the line of the fraction. It tells us how many equal pieces we have. The denominator is a number below the line of the fraction. It tells us how many equal pieces there are altogether. Vocabulary continued. Equivalent fractions. Equivalent fractions are fractions with different numbers, but they represent the same part of a whole. So visually, if you were to draw these fractions, they would all represent the same amount of the shape. A quick task for you. I would like you to take a look at the shapes. I'd like you to work out how much of the shape has been shaded, and therefore to work out its fraction. Take a pause. For this shape, you can see that 1 out of a possible 12 equal parts have been shaded, and therefore the fraction is 1/12. Over here, 1 out of 6 possible parts have been shaded, therefore the fraction is 1/6. Have a look at these, and again, pause the video to have a quick go. Hopefully you would have worked out that for this one here, 5 out of 8 equal parts are shaded. Therefore, the fraction of the shape shaded is 5/8. Over here, we have 4 out of 7 equal parts which have been shaded. Therefore, the fraction is 4/7. Try these ones, and again, take a pause of the video to work them out. Here we have 1 out of 8 equal parts have been shaded, therefore it is 1/8 of the shape. This one we have 5 out of 6 equal parts have shaded, and the fraction is 5/6. I want to have a quick look at how we can actually represent fractions. There are a number of different ways. Here I've got 3/4. I've thought we could look at how we can write it in words, how we can show it through a bar model, how we could possibly draw it, and how we could do it on a number line. If you want to take a quick pause, you can do and see how you would do it. But here we go. The bar model here, we have 3 out of 4 shaded. In words, I'd write this as 3/4. I could draw this fraction in a circle and shade it in as follows. Or I could draw it on a number line like this. Why don't you have a quick go for this one? There's 3/6. Take a pause now on the video. Here is how we can represent 3/6. Start here with our bar model. 3 out of 6 equal parts have been shaded. I could write it in words. 3/6. I could draw it as a circle, or I could do myself a number line. How about this one? Why don't you have a go? Take a pause on the video. Here is 1/10. I've shown it in a bar model. 1 out of 10 has been shaded here. I could write it in words, 1/10. I could draw it in a circle. Remember to make sure they're equal parts. And I also have it on a number line down here. Let's move on to equivalent fractions. This is a fraction wall, and it shows us all the fractions drawn together. At the top of our fraction wall, we have one whole complete shape. Underneath this, we then have the different fractions. So here we have a half. We can clearly see that the 1 has been split into 2 equal parts. We then divide that 1 by 3 equal parts, and here we have our thirds. Repeating that process, we have our quarters here when our 1 has been divided by 4. We have our fifths here when our whole 1 has been divided by 5. We have our sixths when 1 has been divided by 6 equal parts, and so on and so on. And what the fraction wall does is it shows us that actually some fractions are worth the same amount. For instance, here is a half. And this fraction is exactly the same size as 2/4. It's also exactly the same size as 3/6. And it's exactly the same size as 4/8. Looking at tenths, a half is the same as 5/10. And going down to the twelfths, 6/12 is equal to a half as well. So we can use a fraction wall to help us work out equivalent fractions. So equivalent fractions are the fractions which are the same size. This shows us, like I've just represented on the slide beforehand, what fractions are the same size as a half. So let's have a look at these diagrams then. Here we have a shape which has been divided into 3 equal parts, and one segment of this is a third. This shape here has been divided into 9 equal parts, but the same amount has been shaded in. This fraction has 9 equal parts, and 3 out of those 9 have been shaded. Therefore, the fraction here is 3/9. Over on this side, 1/4 of the shape has been shaded in. The same shape has been divided into 8 equal parts, but these two here are exactly the same size still. So 1/4 here is the same as 2/8 over here. To reiterate, there was a third. It has been timesed by 3 to now be out of 9ths. 1 3 is 3 on the top, 3 3s are 9. And over on this side, this fraction has been doubled. 1 2 is 2, and 4 2s are 8. The 2/8 is equivalent to 1/4. And over here, 3 ninths is equivalent to 1/3. We're going to try and work out these equivalent fractions. You can either use times tables or maybe a fraction rule to help you. Take a pause in the video and have a go for yourself before checking out the next slide. These were the answers. Hopefully you got them too. For this fraction here, I went from thirds to twelfths. To get from thirds to twelfths, I had to times by 4, because 3 fours are 12. Therefore, whatever I do to the denominator, I must do to the numerator. So 3 fours are 12, therefore 1 4 is 4. For this one, we had to work backwards. To get from 3 back to 1, I had to divide by 3. Therefore, you do the same to the bottom. 6 divided by 3 is 2. For 3/4, to get to eighths, I had to times by 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Therefore, 3 times 2 is 6. And lastly over here, to get from twelfths to 24ths, I've had to double it. 12 times 2 is 24. Therefore, 5 times 2 is 10. Have a quick go of this one. Take a pause in the video. How did you get on? Let's try and work through this together. I've started with a quarter. We're trying to work out which fractions are the same amount as a quarter. So, to get from here to here, I have times by 2. Therefore, I need to do exactly the same underneath, times by 2. Therefore, a quarter is exactly the same as 2/8. To get from here to here, I have times by 3. Therefore, that has to be times by 3, making it 3/12. To get from here all the way over to here, I have times by 4. Therefore, I need to do exactly the same for this one, times by 4, making it 4/16. Continuing this, to get all the way to 100, I have to times by 25. Therefore, I have to times the top by 25. And lastly here, 4 times 50 is 200. Therefore, I have to times the top by 50. Whatever you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. And this is how you work out the equivalent fractions. So that's it from me. Now have a go at Day 1's worksheets. Good luck!